Hi everyone, Nigel Saunders here. Today I'm going to be working on my willow bonsai. Over here on top of this bench I've got my giant willow cuttings from Josh. I haven't done anything with them other than prune the top off last year. This year they've just been allowed to grow, and I've got them in a tray here, right down here. And this tray I fill with water. I put 2 liters of fertilized water in it every day, and they suck it up. They use 2 liters every day. So today I'm going to prune this tree up, making it more compact and doing some branch selection. I'm going to start today by looking at my Black Willow bonsai. This was a cutting I took off a tree from the backyard. The Black Willow is a native willow to Canada here. I did prune it back about maybe 2 weeks ago. The shoots were really long. It was sucking up a lot of water, and the leaves didn't look too good on it because they got hit by frost in spring, and it just wasn't looking very good. So I cut it back hard. I haven't done any branch selection on it, but today I'm going to do a little more detailed work on this Black Willow. Before I start the work on the willow trees, I want to show you a couple of pots I got at the thrift store just this morning. Here is a look at the 2 pots. So they're clay pots. They look like cement, but they're not. And they have a glaze on them that's crackled, which is quite nice. They have a hole in the bottom, a drainage hole. This one says made in China. Yeah, they're kind of well, I guess I'd call them fairly crudely shaped pots, but the pattern on them is nice, and the crackled glaze is really nice too. So yeah, I picked those up. I don't know what I'll plant in them, but something. Here's a look at my Black Willow bonsai. It's quite an old tree. It's suffered many good years and bad years. There's been a lot of dieback on it. You can see there's a dead section on the trunk here. Branches have been allowed to grow. They've been cut back, sometimes successful, sometimes not. You can see this branch died back to this side branch here. Yeah, so it's kind of a nice tree. It has a lot of character. Today I want to do a little branch selection on it. You can see there's a parallel branch here alongside this trunk, so I need to remove that. I'll remove some of the dead wood here and just prune it up, selecting my branches. Alright, here I go. So I think the first branch I want to remove is that one that's running parallel to this trunk line. So I will come in somehow and prune it off if I can get in there. It's a tight squeeze between these branches. There, I got it. So that's one branch pruned off that's approved. There's a dead branch out front here. I can take that off. This trunk line, it comes up. I've got a side branch which looks good. It divides from 1 into 2. The main leader up here is thinner than this branch. I've got a bud on the inside there. I don't know that I need this branch at all. It's kind of growing in towards the center of the tree. If that was a leader, I could develop it up into a, sort of a twisty leader, but I like this one out front. So I think in this case, I'm not going to prune it off yet. I'm going to shorten it to that bud to here. It gives me some options for the future. If this branch were to die back, then I've got this as a backup for my leader. I'll take a stub off here, like that. And then this structure, it comes up, and I don't think I want this branch. I think it crosses this branch, so I'm going to eliminate that one. And I want this to grow as my main leader, so I'm going to shorten this one, like that. This branch coming out here, it's a bit long and straight. I'm looking for leaves. I have a set of leaves back here, so I'll prune it back to the next node, taking the tip off there. I think that's got this side, this trunk line, cleaned up. At the front here, I have 2 branches growing from one spot. I like this one better, it fans out, so I'm going to eliminate the one on the inside here. Like that. There's a dead branch here I can remove. Over here, I also have 2 branches growing from one spot. I think in this case, I like the lower one. It's fanning out more, so I'll remove this upper one. Like that. The one that comes up here, I've got a bud down here and one here. I think I'm going to prune it back. It's a little tall. This trunk line here, this one died back to here. I kind of want something growing in this area, so I'm going to leave it as is. I should get a lot of branches coming off of it. There's a dead bit I could prune off here. Like that. Now I need to take off this dead stump on the top here. So I'll leave a bit of the dead wood on the branch. So here I go. That's pruned off. I do like this branch here. It could be shortened a bit. And the one here, there's an outward facing bud down here, so I'll prune it off there. The branch that's underneath here, I don't think I need that one. It kind of grows underneath this one. Prune the stub off. And I'll get rid of this one. Like that. I don't want this vertical growth here, so that comes off. There's a stub here I can prune back. Like that. And then I'm looking for something growing here. I've got a bud on the underside here, so I'll just take the tip off. This branch here is nice. I've got growth here and here, so I'll take the tip off. I think that cleans it up somewhat. I'm definitely not liking this branch here. That's what's coming off. It's on the inside of a curve too. Yeah, that's looking better. And something will have to be done about these 2 branches in the future. Maybe this one will be eliminated as this one grows up. I could even get rid of it now. I think I will. Off it comes. I don't think it's in a good position. This lower branch will do the same job, growing out the front like that. So there, I've got it all pruned up. I think it's looking quite nice. This deadwood here, as it slowly rots away, it holds a lot of water, and you get roots that grow from the living part of the tree into this dead section. And as it rots away, as this wood rots away, it exposes these roots that are growing in this kind of rotted section. So you can get some really interesting root structures above the ground on these willows. And you see that in nature a lot, that roots grow down through the dead wood, and you get some interesting exposed roots in the future. Okay, so there's my black willow pruned up, a very, very gnarly looking tree. I wouldn't want to prune these willows any later than the end of July. It gives them August and September to kind of grow and fill in and gain vigor. If you do it later than July, you're kind of risking the health of the tree. It may not overwinter very well. I will protect this one in the winter, keeping it in the greenhouse here around the freezing point. There's a close-up of it. It certainly has some character, this tree. I also keep my black willow in a tray of water here. That keeps it hydrated on hot sunny days. Next, it is time to work on the weeping willows. They are large trees, so I think I'll do the work outside. I'll put them on the outdoor bench. Okay. The willow is on the bench, ready to be worked on. Let's do a little weeding here. All right, let's have a look at it. Here is a look at the willow. I'll give you a close-up of the trunk. So the trunk is, fairly thick, but it's straight, which is all right, but it has no taper. I cut it off here originally, and I sealed it with the rubber cement, and that did a really good job because you can see the shoots that came out really close to the cut point. The trunk didn't die back from this cutting operation because I sealed it like that. I've got a lot of lower branches, so I have to make some styling choices today on this tree. How high do I want this trunk? Do I want to keep these lower branches and develop it into a low broom style? Do I want to remove the lower branches and develop the upper canopy? These are choices I have to make today. I'm looking at the tree from the distance. So I have two possibilities. As I said, I could prune the trunk down low, really short, develop those lower branches as upright branches or trunks to form a canopy, or I could remove them and grow my top ones. The question is how big a tree do I want this to be in the end? Do I want a smaller willow, kind of like my Black Willow, something that's easy to manage, or do I want a big, giant, impressive looking tree that's sort of a super tree for bonsai shows? That is the question, and it's a good question. Because the trunk doesn't have any taper at the moment, it may develop it. I'm leaning towards growing the lower branches and keeping it as a smaller tree. The trunk will look larger if I prune the tree back. If, right now with it being fairly tall, the trunk line, it doesn't look that impressive. Maybe it's because it has no taper. But yeah, it just looks like, someone stuck a big willow cutting in a pot. So I'm leaning towards pruning it back shorter. If I prune it back shorter, I've got some good branches here. There's a back one there. Sort of this level would be a good point to cut the tree at. I could, see, I've got a really thick branch here. I could cut an angle cut right here and then develop the tree from there. I think that's a good plan. I'm going to start the work today by pruning the branches shorter. It'll make it easier to cut. So all the branches above my cut point here, I'll just prune right off, like that. Prune this one off, like that. And these branches didn't exist when I initially cut this tree. These are all new branches this year. It was just basically a stump. And there's one back here I can get. And one here. The rest are below where I'll be cutting, so I'll keep those. Now I could shorten them now, or I could wait and cut the stump off first. I think they'll get in the way of the saw, so I think I will prune these branches back shorter. So I'm looking for buds that are facing the outside. There's lots of choices here. So I'm going to go quite low here. I'll go right down to here on this branch, pruning the whole top off. This one to here. And I may eliminate some of these branches. Nothing set in stone, that's for sure. Cut this one back. It's a big tall branch. This one can be cut back to here. This one to here. This one, I've got a bud on the outside here, so I'll go right down here. Taking the whole top off that. Looking for buds on the outside here. I'll go to here for now. I may prune it off shorter later. Let's rotate around here. Dead branch here. I can take out. This one I'll take off to here. And this one to here. And I'll rotate around again. And I'll take this one off here. And this one to here. So that's got all the major branches pruned back now. So I should be able to get in here with a saw and cut the stump off the top. And I think that's a good height, you know, for my main trunk line, and then I'll grow the broom style canopy up above that. Here's my Blue Jay Bonsai carnage cam down here, so you can see all the branches I pruned away. My handsaw here has gone all rusty, but I'll see if it cuts. All right, I'm going to come in on an angle here, looking where my branches are, so I can come in like this. So here I go. And I'm sure some of these branches will get damaged as I'm doing this, but I'll try and be careful. I wonder if the big loppers would be better. I'll try those. These ratcheting loppers can be really good for big cuts because they're quite precise. So I will come in this way, find my cut mark, and here I go. Cutting the top off the tree. Just like that. Now I think I'm just have to, a little bit of bark is still attached here. There we go. Tops off the tree. I counted the rings on the trunk here. It's about a 10-year-old tree. Here's the tree now. I'll take it into the greenhouse and I'll do some branch selection now. Here is a look at the tree now. It's on the turntable. So this lowest branch, if I grow this branch, it'll be almost like a twin trunk. It's very thick, and also this one. And you do see willows that are, you know, fairly short, and then they have this branch structure coming off them. Usually because the tree got damaged in a storm. Maybe it started rotting the inside of the tree, and then the top breaks off, and then all these bottom branches take over. So I just want to reduce the branches to the ones I want to keep. I've got my thick one at the bottom, I've got a thick one here, and then I've got two little branches here that I don't really need. This one's above the lower one, and these are all kind of coming from one spot here, and you can see it's already beginning to bulge a little bit. So I think I'll keep my thicker branches and remove these little ones. Like that, and this one like that. So that solves one problem on the tree. Now these two branches are kind of opposite each other, but in a broom style it doesn't really bother me. That's what you see in nature. You see these whorls of branches, and if it thickens up, it thickens up. It's not a problem. So here again I have two branches, one growing above the other. Which one do I keep? I think in this case I would keep the upper one and remove the lower one. So that's what I'll do. Like that. I've got two branches growing up here at the same spot. I think I'll pick my, I was going to say I'd pick my thicker one, but it's kind of growing over top of these other trunk lines. This one kind of grows in its own space. So in this case, I'm going to remove the thicker one. The thinner one is better placed, and it'll thicken up. Like that. Over here, I've got, again, two branches growing in one spot. They're both in a good location. This one kind of fills out this area, and this one fills out this area. So I think in this case, I think this branch is in the better position. It's kind of in between these two branches. This one's closer to this branch. I'm going to keep my thin one once again and prune away the thicker one. Tough choice there, but it's done. So there's the tree. It is quite possible I could get rid of this branch. And I think I should, because I have this branch here and this one over here, and this is in between, and it's very close to the other one, and I just don't think I need it. So I'm going to remove that one also. Here I go. So that's gone. That kind of simplifies the major structure of the tree. Once these branch out, these buds become active and they become branches, I can then prune these, straight sticks back to some of these back branches, getting movement and taper into the branches. That'll help make the tree look more miniature. I have an aerial root here and here, which are fine. They will eventually just sort of blend in with the trunk, so I'm leaving those on. And the unknown with this tree is I don't know how deeply this cutting is buried. The cutting could be buried halfway down in the pot, so the roots may be starting here. That's something I'll find out in spring. But if I get more trunk, it won't hurt on this tree. I'll just have a taller broom style tree. I will seal my cuts with the rubber cement. They don't seem to be leaking sap or anything, but I will seal them just to stop it drying out. It'll keep the top part of the tree a little more healthy. All right, here I go sealing my cuts. I'm getting low on rubber cement. I've been using it quite a bit. So next time I'm out, remind me to get more of this rubber cement. It's only 99 cents a tube. And it's very, very effective. I really, really like it as a sealant because it's flexible, it's clear, and it works. Okay, that is all sealed up and it's ready to grow once again. It's quite early in this tree's life, but I am going to try and pick a front for the tree. It's not bad right here, but maybe no, that branch is too powerful. My highest leader is here, so I'd want that kind of, maybe somewhere here would look good. I'll mark that as the front for now, and I can always change it as the tree develops. So I'll just put a little cutting in here. It'll probably root and grow if I know willows. There. So the front of the tree is marked somewhere here maybe. It all depends what happens up top. Sometimes you do a big cut like this and you get an explosion of growth and new shoots up top, which would be good. It would give me more selection for the front view. I'll put the willow back into its tray of water and get out my second planting of willow cuttings. Here is the second pot of willow cuttings. So it was originally 2 cuttings and it looks like the one didn't make it, but the other one has a lot of growth down here. There's a lot of weeds in the pot. So again, I think the first operation should be to prune all these long shoots back, getting it more compact. I'll prune away this dead trunk and then we'll see what I have to work with. So that's got the tree a little more compact. Next, I think I need to do some weeding. All right, let's get all these weeds pulled out so I can have a better look at what's going on here. There's a few more branches I need to prune back here. So these willows will get repotted in spring after the weather is looking better. I think I've done willows, repotting them early, and it wasn't so successful. So I think I'm going to wait until I've got the leaves coming out on the trees and then repot them. I'm going to try that. I think if you repot them too early, I don't know, they just seem to struggle. Willows don't like the heat. So on a hot summer day, be sure they have a cool tray of water underneath them to keep the trees cool. If you've ever stood under a willow on a hot day, it's almost like rain. They pump up a lot of water through the branches to keep the tree cool, and you can actually get wet underneath a willow on a hot day from all the water dripping down, spraying down on you. Okay, that's got the weeds out. Now, I think the next step is to remove this dead trunk here, which may be attached to the other branch here. It could be a fork in here, but I'm going to cut it back to ground level. All right, here I go removing the other stump, the dead trunk here. So I'll just get down as low as I can and see what I can do. Using the big loppers again. Okay, I think I have it enough that I can just break it out now. Yeah, there I go. So I'm down to a single trunk line that's above the soil anyway. Okay, let's do some branch selection next. So here, I've got the trunk line coming up, and it divides into 3 here, and there's another one down here. That's too many branches coming from one spot. I do like the fact, I get some taper here if I were to prune off this part of the trunk, and I think I will. So, I don't know if I should use a lopper. I think I'll use the loppers here. I think this branch is pretty thick. All right, let's come in here. See if I can get a precision cut with a giant instrument. Here I go. Oh, that's a brutal cut. Oh, that just kind of shredded the trunk, but as that rots and repairs itself, it'll make for some interesting features. So that's what I'm left with. I wouldn't recommend doing that though. Okay, so that's one part of the branch selection done. Next, I've got 2 trunks growing from one spot here. And which one do I want to keep? That is a good question. I think logically the thicker one would be the one to keep, so I'll prune away the thinner one. That'll help me smooth out my taper. There. And then this is quite a straight section, so I'm going to prune it back to here and see what grows and maybe prune it back further in the future. This branch coming off to the side, it's quite long, and I don't think I need it. I think I want to develop a trunk line first before I have any low branches, so I'm going to take it right away. I'm going to remove it. Here I go, like that. And then the one that's coming out of the soil, I think I'll take that off too. So I'm just left with a trunk line, that's it. And it's not a very nice looking trunk line, but willows are fast growing trees and it should develop nicely and grow vigorously, and we'll see what we get. That's all you can do. I will seal this cut up with some rubber cement, all my cuts. Maybe that'll stop the insects getting in there, I don't know. Okay, so yeah, not a very attractive looking tree, this one. But, we'll make it into something very cool for the future. Here's a look at the 2 willows together. This one I think is going to be really awesome. This one, it's a diamond in the rough. It'll be awesome someday. I've got some space in this pot, so I thought I might as well stick this willow cutting in the soil here, if I can get it in. and see if it roots and grows. There. So it's in there quite deeply. It should root no problem. If this one doesn't work out, well, I've got a backup plan. Willows are tricky trees to grow as bonsai. I think I've killed quite a few over the years, and I think I've learned why. So here's my recommendations: is don't let the roots freeze on the willow. Try and keep them above freezing if possible. So in wintertime, treat it as a subtropical, that you want to keep the tree really cool over the winter. It loses its leaves and stays dormant, but you don't want the roots freezing. So I'll keep it in my basement or in the greenhouse here, keeping, you know, the soil level just above freezing. That's one thing I think I've learned. The other thing is that I think they need a larger root system compared to the size of the tree than most trees. I think they need that ability to suck up a lot of water. So I think my last willow I had, which was looking good, I reduced the root system quite severely, sorting it all out. And ever since that, it kind of suffered. And I'm not sure if it was the weather that did it, or if it was just that reduction of the root system, that it didn't have enough roots to support and cool the top of the tree. So I'm going to leave all my willows in larger pots. The goal is not to reduce the roots down to get them in a normal sized bonsai pot. It's better to leave them in a large pot and have a small tree that's alive than have a pot that kind of matches a typical bonsai size. Any other recommendations? Definitely keep them in a tray of water over the summer. Fertilize them heavily, water them well. In the winter, you don't need them in a tray of water, otherwise the roots may rot. But you want to keep it well watered also. So I would take away the tray of water in the winter, keep it in a normal pot and just water it a lot and keep it above freezing. The pruning, I'm going to wait in spring until the leaves are coming out on the tree and then prune it. I think that's safer than doing a winter prune when the branches are bare. And yeah, other than that, keep it in full sun and keep your fingers crossed, because you don't see a lot of mature willow bonsai at shows, and there's a reason why, is that they are a very tricky tree to keep alive in a pot.
It's time now for today's updates.
I defoliated and pruned my Norway maple up recently, and it's starting to come into leaf again. It's kind of strange. On these branches, I pruned them, and you can see the buds forming on them, but the tree decided to grow new branches from the trunks or the upright branches instead of growing it at the tips here, which I find kind of strange. So here's another example. The tips, my growing tips were here, and there's buds developing on it. They're nice and green and here, but the leaves have come out in a different place. This branch, I'm still waiting. I didn't prune this branch at all because it was weak, and I'm hoping that leaves out and it survives, but who knows. So yeah, the Norway maples, so far I've found they're very unpredictable when it comes to pruning. And maybe it's just my tree. I'm not sure if in general they're like that, but maybe my tree is just weak or something, but I don't know. It grew really strongly in spring and last year, so I think they're just a little unpredictable. But anyway, it's coming into leaf again, looking good. Nice to see. Here's a look at some of my tropical trees now. They're really growing strongly the second half of summer. We went down to 10 degrees Celsius, 10 degrees above freezing last night. That's a little cool. Cooler than I really want these tropicals to experience, because it cools the pot down, and it takes a long time for that soil temperature to warm up again. We've got the sun out today, so I'm sure the pots have warmed up by now, but that's awfully cold, especially for the middle of summer. The only solution would be to bring all the tropicals into the greenhouse and put them on the floor on these cool nights, but that's kind of impractical when I've got so many trees. So I leave them outside, and you know, it doesn't hurt them. I just think That maybe interrupts their growth cycle because it's just so cool out at nights, but I don't know. They're still growing strongly, getting good results. Here's my little leaf ficus benjamina. It's doing great after its repot. It's getting a nice canopy on top. Yeah, everything's growing well. Here's my willow leaf ficus back here. Super dense branching on it. Except for the one, which has got a few coarse leaves on it, but I'll have to prune that out. But yeah, I think it'll look really good by the end of summer. And they're getting dense. They're getting dense to the point where you can't really see the branch structure anymore. The canopies are filling in, and which is good for growth if you want to grow your trees larger. If I didn't want to grow it larger, I would have it in a smaller pot, and I would be doing some pruning about now. But I'm going to let it gain strength and maybe do the pruning process before it goes in for the winter. Over here are my giant sequoias. I gave those quite a top pruning. They're looking really good. All the branches look nice and green. I think that removing all that vigorous growth on top really helped the lower branches. I think it equalized the balance of vigor, and they're growing quite evenly. So I think I'll keep the lower branches. I don't think I'll lose them due to weakness. I think it'll at least keep the majority of them anyway. So yeah, I'll keep experimenting with these giant sequoias, trying to keep them small and miniature. My junipers are gaining strength. They're outside here in the sun. They're starting to fill in again after the last pruning. So that's my needle juniper. Over here is my Sabina juniper. And there's a lot of vertical growth on it, but I'm just letting it grow and waiting for branches that fan out from the bottom. And then the next pruning, all that vertical growth will come off, and I'll keep my more horizontal branching. My little cedar clump here, root over rock, is starting to fill out nicely now. I trimmed it down to the bare minimum, and now it's starting to fill out quite nicely, and it's looking pretty good, I think. People have been asking me about my poplar tree. Remember, I had a poplar that I cut down to a stump, so here it is. There's the stump, and it's grown new branches, and the branches have grown and grown and grown and grown and grown. So quite tall now. So that will need a good pruning, and I think I'll probably wait until the leaves are off the tree or next spring. It's just tall and vertical. It doesn't take up much space. It's not like a bushy canopy on the tree. So I'll just let it grow, gain strength and vigor, and then do my branch selection when the leaves have come off the trees. Eric and Emma picked up their trees I was babysitting, so I have a lot more room in the polyhouse now. So I can maybe move some more trees into the polyhouse. It'll keep them a little warmer overnight if we get more cool temperatures.
I was happy to get my willows pruned back today. And as I said, I think, the end of July is kind of the cutoff point for doing that type of hard pruning work on the willows. So I'm hoping there's enough warm weather in the summer still for them to recover and gain strength and overwinter successfully. That's all for today. I'm Nigel Saunders. Thanks for joining me in the Bonsai Zone.